Hey guys, so welcome to this video. And in this one, it's definitely one that I know has been quite highly anticipated, especially trading on the lower time frames. Now, moving on from that last video where I quickly mentioned that last step, this one right here, where we're going to be talking about imbalances and how to actually use them. So what we're going to be talking about in this lesson and comparing using imbalances versus order blocks on the lower time frames. Okay, so as we talked about in this example, price actually missed the order block at the bottom, the extreme order block. Instead, it respected the high time frame order block over here, as you can see. But if we were just looking at the lower time frame, what did it respect? It respected that imbalance just above the extreme order block right there. So that's an idea that we're going to be having moving forwards. So the whole idea of using the imbalance to trade can be quite effective with a higher hit rate. Of course, because if we are entering on the imbalance, it's going to be a bit above. So it's not going to be as discounted or as a premium area that we usually see from certain order blocks. Ultimately, what it will mean is that we will have a wider stop loss. Now, I'm going to show you, you could have a tight stop loss, but it just makes it a bit risky because the order block can still be respected. But we're going to get into this example right now. So what we're looking at is GBP USD on a 15-minute time frame. So as you can see, this is the price action that played out. Now, what we're going to be looking at. So zooming into one of the areas on this price chart, I believe it's, this area right over here, just below the equal lows. So that's pretty much the area we're going to be looking at. So what do we see? We see this high time frame demand zone being respected. It's quickly just gone back into it. But now what we're looking for is that primary structural area. And for me, what I would consider it in this area, as you can see, price moves downwards. It creates this high. And from this high, we move down all the way into the low. So I would consider that as the lower time frame primary structural area. So once we get this break, that's when I would start to consider looking for trades. As you can see, we did get this. We got our change of character at this point right here. So what we can start doing is we can start looking for entries. Now, the first entry right here would have been at this order block at the bottom. Now, what happens, let's just say if we did miss it. So where would you start to look to enter? Price has made that other move to the upside now. We can clearly see that we're rejecting nicely off this high time frame demand zone. And now we're starting to look for an entry. Now, there's two methods that you can use. The usual one that we've been using for a while has been using the order blocks at the extreme side. So we've got this imbalance that needs to be filled, and then the order block at the bottom. So your entry simply would have been something like this. You wait for that little pullback there, enter at the top, stop loss at the bottom, and then it would have been as simple as that. Or would you go for option two, the imbalance? Now, this is something that you're going to see a lot on the lower time frames, and definitely test it and test it and test it. You can't, when you're looking at this and you're trying to enter from the imbalance, you need to understand one thing. You could, for example, keep your entry here and your stop loss just below the imbalance. You could do that because it does work out at times. But what I also see is the reason for the other side of the market as well. What happens if you enter here at the imbalance, but your stop loss is very tight? There's still a potential for the order block to be respected. That's why if you're entering on something like this on the imbalance, I would definitely recommend, or this is the way that I go about things, keeping the stop loss a lot wider and keeping it even below that order block. The whole point of this is so that we don't miss the trade. But of course, it will mean a lot of risk to reward. If you really wanted to, you could split up the trade. You could say, for example, 0.5% of the trade is going to be wider like this. 0.5% of the trade is going to be the tighter order block. Could do something like that. Now, I'm just going to give the scenario of what happened with both of the trades. Option A, if we had waited for that order block, this is what would have happened. Let's just say we were waiting for that take profit to be at this high over here. We would not have been entered at all. As you can see, price just completely went upwards. But instead, what did it do? Option B. Instead, it actually just respected the imbalance, as you can see. So it went upwards, reversed a bit downwards into that imbalance. So how could you have entered? this is what it would have looked like if we had entered from the imbalance. So you can kind of see how the trade ran off without ever pulling back to that extreme order block. If we entered from the imbalance, this is what you could have got. And what's this? Probably a 1 to 5, something like that. Definitely better than nothing, right? So this is definitely one of the lessons that I'm going to say, and this is the takeaway that I want you guys to have. So the lessons to take away on the higher time frame, what we do look at for entries would be the order blocks. On the lower time frames, we're going to be looking at areas of imbalances. So exactly like this scenario here, we looked at a high time frame order block. Let's just go back. We looked at this high time frame order block down here. As you can see, that's where it started to be respected. But on the lower time frame, what we were looking for was the imbalance. So as you can see, this massive imbalance right here, that's what we would have entered on and got into a trade like this. So yeah, this is generally quite a good rule to stick to, even though you can just stick to only order blocks on the lower time frame, you'll likely miss out on a lot of trades. And you know that was the whole point of that last video that we were talking about. That video where we were identifying why do I keep missing out on certain areas. Long term, I would definitely say this is what I would stick to. Of course, you could stick to order blocks just on the lower time frames, and it does work. I'm still saying it does work, but you want to increase your hit rate, really. It's going to be looking at more imbalances on the lower time frame. So, guys, that's going to be it for this lesson. I hope you enjoyed this one. Maybe it brought a bit of light to this whole idea, but yeah, I'll see you all in the next one. Take care, guys.